let's unpack this. Today, we're embarking on a deep dive into the quiet mind. It's a podcast series, and it's positioned really as the pathway to inner peace and mindfulness. Now, I know for many of you listening, especially those already, familiar with personal growth, maybe contemplative practices, this whole area of mindfulness resources can feel, well, pretty crowded.
It really can. There's a lot out there.
Exactly. So the big question for us today, the core of this deep dive is, what's actually unique here? What insights or maybe particularly effective approaches does the quiet mind offer that genuinely set it apart? Make it worth a listen, even if you feel like you've heard a lot of this before.
Yeah, that's a great question. And what's immediately, I think, fascinating about the quiet mind is how it seems to manage. Well, it transcends the usual 101 material.
Okay.
It offers these more nuanced pathways, or, for listeners who probably already get the basics.
Right.
Their stated mission, it isn't just about teaching mindfulness techniques. It's framed more around empowering you, the listener, to discover the transformative power of your own inner peace.
Empowering. I like that.
Yeah, and that suggests a methodology that kind of goes beyond just rote exercises. It feels like it aims to cultivate something deeper, a more sustainable sense of calm, of presence.
So less about rigid rules.
Much less. More about cultivating this adaptive, compassionate inner landscape. It feels more personal.
That sounds like a critical distinction.
Yeah.
They do start, though, as many do, with the foundations of mindfulness.
Sure, the basics have to be there.
Right. So for listeners familiar with it, the core idea is paying attention, on purpose, present moment, without judgment. Those are pretty well-known pillars.
Definitely.
But where does the quiet mind really, refine that?
Yeah.
Or deepen the understanding, especially around that without judgment piece? Because honestly, that's the part so many people find really challenging in practice.
Ah, yes. And this, I think, is precisely where the quiet mind offers a really impactful insight. It's quite subtle.
Yeah.
They don't just define non-judgment as some ideal state you have to force yourself into.
Which feels impossible sometimes.
Exactly. Instead, they guide listeners through the sort of subtle art of observing judgment itself, watching it happen without getting tangled up in it.
Observing the judgment.
It's a crucial distinction, isn't it? You're not trying to suppress or eliminate judgmental thoughts. Good luck with that, right?
Yeah.
It's more about allowing them to exist, noticing they're there, and then gently detaching, not identifying with them.
So you see the thought, oh, that was judgmental, but you don't beat yourself up for having it.
Precisely. This reframing, moving from trying not to judge to simply accepting the presence of judgment as another mental event, that's a significant leap for anyone who's felt frustrated by a concept before.
That's a kind of meta-awareness that often gets glossed over, I think.
It really does.
Okay, so once the quiet mind helps establish that baseline, that ability to observe judgment without getting swept away, where do they guide listeners next? How do you apply this? What's the immediate, the most accessible tool they offer for this kind of awareness?
Well, they move towards the breath, as you'd expect.
Right, the classic anchor. But sometimes, the advice to just focus on your breath can feel a bit, cliche or maybe simplistic.
Yeah.
How do they make this ancient practice feel fresh and genuinely effective, especially for a modern listener who's probably, let's face it, pretty distracted?
Yeah, fair point. They really elevate the breath, I think. It's not just presented as a simple anchor point to return to.
Okay.
They position it more as a physiological lever. The quiet mind actually delves into the why behind the breath's power.
The science bit.
Kinda, yeah. They articulate how conscious, deliberate breathing can directly engage the vagus nerve, which in turn stimulates the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest system.
Okay, so it's not just a mental trick.
Not at all. It's not merely about interrupting the stress response mentally. It's about actively down-regulating that fight or flight response at a biological level.
That gives it more weight, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It provides this tangible physiological understanding that empowers listeners beyond just, following instructions. It gives you a deeper sense of agency over your internal state. It's about shifting from that automatic, maybe panicked reaction to an intentional, embodied response.
That physiological connection definitely adds a layer of depth. I can see how that would resonate. But okay, even with that understanding, the big hurdle for so many people, myself included sometimes, is just the relentless wandering mind.
The busy brain, yes.
The quiet mind addresses this head on, right? How do they approach this really common challenge? Is it different? Does it feel less like you're trying to tame the mind and maybe more about skillfully navigating its natural tendencies? Especially for those who perhaps felt like having a noisy mind means they're just failing at meditation.
Yeah, and that feeling of failure is so counterproductive. They really pivot the paradigm here. It's less about overcoming the wandering mind.
Which sounds like a battle.
Right. It's more about relating differently to your thoughts. Instead of seeing a wandering mind as some personal flaw or a distraction you need to fight against, they present it as just an inherent characteristic of the human brain. It's what brains do. And each time it wanders, it's actually an opportunity.
An opportunity? How so?
An opportunity for that consistent, gentle redirection. It's less about stopping thoughts altogether, which is probably impossible anyway, and more about not getting hooked by them, not getting carried away down the rabbit hole.
Okay, so not getting lost in the story the thought is telling.
Exactly. They suggest this approach of acknowledging a thought, thinking, accepting its presence without that layer of judgment we talked about earlier, and then just gently, kindly reorienting your attention back to your anchor, like the breath.
Gently, kindly. Those words feel important.
They are, because this compassionate detachment, practiced over time, fosters these subtle cognitive shifts. It gradually leads to less mental agitation, more sustained focus, but crucially, without the pressure of trying to achieve some mythical thoughtless state.
That's a genuinely refreshing take. Moving away from that feeling of struggle towards acceptance.
Yeah.
Okay, so after helping us navigate our own thoughts more skillfully, the quiet mind introduces the power of gratitude. Now, this isn't just tacked on as a feel-good extra, is it?
Definitely not.
How do they integrate gratitude into a sustained mindfulness practice? How does it create deeper, maybe more systemic shifts in your overall well-being beyond just, a fleeting positive emotion?
That's a key point. They really emphasize moving beyond merely thinking grateful thoughts, like making a list in your head.
Okay.
The focus is on truly feeling the emotion of gratitude within the body, tuning into the physical sensations associated with appreciation.
That embodied sense again.
Exactly. This embodied appreciation, when you cultivate it consistently, they suggest it can actually start to repattern neural pathways.
Really? Yeah.
Well, it can enhance positive emotional regulation, it seems to reduce rumination, getting stuck on negative thoughts, and it might even influence our cognitive biases, shifting them towards more optimistic interpretations of everyday events.
Wow. So it's quite profound.
It transforms gratitude from just an intellectual exercise, something you should do, into a genuinely profound felt state. And that helps create a more resilient, more appreciative mindset that starts to permeate your daily life, not just when you're meditating.
So pulling this all together then, what does this really mean for you, the listener? As we've explored these insights from the quiet mind, it's pretty clear they've designed a comprehensive yet really quite nuanced approach to mental wellness.
It seems that way.
From refining those foundations of mindfulness.
Yeah.
Particularly that idea of accepting judgment itself to leveraging the breath as an anchor for actual physiological regulation.
Right, the biological aspect.
Yeah, and then skillfully navigating the wandering mind through that compassionate detachment we discussed, right up to genuinely embodying the power of gratitude. It offers a pathway that somehow feels both familiar, yet also profoundly fresh.
And I think if we connect this to the bigger picture, it really highlights how a truly effective mindfulness series can, and maybe should, go beyond just the absolute basics.
Yeah.
It needs to address the common pitfalls people encounter, offer maybe more sophisticated techniques or at least subtler perspectives for those who are ready to deepen their practice.
For people who've maybe plateaued a bit.
Exactly. It emphasizes that consistent engagement, that gentle, persistent practice with accessible yet doubly insightful mindfulness techniques. Well, it really can transform your daily experience of stress, your sense of presence, your overall well-being.
It really does sound like it offers tools for genuine change.
Which brings up, I think, an important question for all of us, really. If this persistent, gentle application of these kinds of refined techniques can genuinely start to rewire our relationship with our own minds, what other internal struggles, what other patterns that cause us difficulty might we be able to transform, maybe just by shifting our perspective and our practice in a similar way?